When you're in love with a beautiful woman, it's tough, everyone wants her and admires her. It might just be an ego issue, but I've been betrayed before by unreliable friends and half-hearted lovers. Each time it happens, it convinces me more. When you're in love with a beautiful woman, you notice every glance she makes. Ironically, that old 70s song played on an obscure FM station as I drove from Denver to Santa Fe. I didn't know anyone in Santa Fe. Most of my friends and family are in Denver, where I have season tickets to the Colorado Avalanche. No one plays hockey in Santa Fe, and my company has 6 offices in Denver. I'm in the investment business, and our new Santa Fe office will be in an apartment near the Presbyterian Medical Center. Another irony, I grew up Methodist. I should start from the beginning. My name is Thomas Rexford, but my friends call me Jaxie. While my friends were at Northwestern, I spent 3 years in the lumber business. Yes, I became a lumberjack, hence the nickname. I still have my gear and my Harley-Davidson, a 2005 Softail Standard Fest in perfect condition. My ex-wife and I used to ride it often, but those days are over. I grew up in the Denver area, and except for my logging days, I've never really left. After Oregon, I worked for my Uncle Mike, who owned an investment company. He got me into the University of Denver for a finance degree. 12 years ago, Uncle Mike retired and sold me the business. We had 4 offices, and I opened 2 more, increasing our staff from 26 to 31. Even in tough times, we cared for our customers and stayed strong. I mentioned my ex-wife, so hey, race more about her. I knew Jessica Remington in high school, but we ran in different circles. I played hockey, she played soccer and was an honor student. Our paths rarely crossed. I wasn't unattractive, just a bit gruff, with long brown hair. Hockey guys have a unique way of talking, often throwing damn into sentences. Hockey players are tight-knit, and our parents usually hang out together too. We felt like outsiders, assuming most people didn't care about us. That's why Jessica and I were just acquaintances in high school. Jessica, Jess, is stunning, with deep red hair, a lean build, and blazing green eyes. She turns heads. Her maternal grandmother came from Ireland in the 50s. She could have dated anyone, but she avoided the star athletes, saying they were usually full of themselves. She kept a small circle of friends and occasionally dated popular guys. We met again 3 years after I returned to Denver from the Northwest. I'd gained some muscle from logging and was playing in a men's hockey league when she walked in. Her friend Tricia, who was dating our goalie Mike, had caught the hockey bug. Hockey players often add an EI or 11 to names, hence Toonie for Mike. Jaxie, look at the bleachers, is that Jessica Remington? Beamer pointed out. Looks like it, I replied. I can't believe she's near the rink. She was with Tricia, so she must have brought her. Being a typical American guy, I tried to catch her attention during the game, scoring 2 goals and an assist. Afterward, as we were leaving the warm-up area, I passed her. Hey Thomas, great game. Aren't you going to say hi to an old school friend? Sorry, Jessica, I didn't realize we were friends in high school. It's good to see you. I stopped, put my bag down, and offered a handshake. I'm a hockey player, not great at socializing. She smiled and took my hand. Maybe if you stepped away from the rink, you'd notice I thought you were a nice guy. What is that awful smell? Sorry, hockey bags have a unique odor. I'll throw them in the Jeep so you won't have to be near them. I'll see you later. She looked a bit hurt, but I didn't know why. We barely knew each other, and I was polite. Beamer ran after me as I got into my restored 2005 red Jeep Wrangler Rubicon. Hey Jaxie, are you going to O'Connell's for a beer? Jessica's coming. She wondered if turning into a hottie made her a snob. You might have a chance, bro, don't mess it up. As my grandpa Mitchell used to say, I may be ugly, but I'm not stupid, so I agreed to meet them at O'Connell's. I arrived first, got a Coors, and sat down. When she arrived, she came straight to me. Listen, Jaxie, is that what they call you? Sorry if I pushed you away, but your bag stinks. Still, I'd like to catch up without it. Sure, Jess. I'd love to hear what's going on in your life. For the next 2 hours, it felt like just the two of us. I bought her a beer, and she bought me two. We talked about the past few years. She went to UCLA for marine biology, worked at the Southern California Marine Institute, learned to surf, but returned to Denver, her mountain home. She's now pursuing a teaching certificate to teach middle school math. She was intrigued by my logging experience and liked my Jeep. She even enjoyed the hockey lingo I explained to her. Hey Jacker, can you get me a beer? It's Jaxie, not Jacker, I corrected, pointing to our server. Since you avoided me at the rink, I thought Jacker was fitting, she said with a sly smile. Let's have some fun, I managed to say. She winked. Before we left, we hugged, and she gave me her number. Call me, I'd like to ride Greta if you'll take me. It's on my wish list. I waited 2 days to call her, not wanting to seem desperate. Hey Jess, it's Thomas, want to ride with me this Saturday? There's a music festival in Leadville. Screw you, Jaxie, I have my own plans and can't drop them for a hockey player. Confused, I whispered, sorry Jess, maybe next weekend. Screw you again, Jaxie, I'd love to join you. What time? How about 9 a.m.? It'll be ready, she said, then added, hey wait, I don't know where you live. Figure it out, Jacker, she said, hanging up. It's Jaxie, I muttered. I called Toonie, who got Jess's address from Trisha. Saturday morning, I knocked on her apartment door in Golden at 9 a.m. sharp. She opened the door wearing shorts, a white tank top, a red and white plaid shirt, and black cowboy boots, with a UCLA sweatshirt tied around her waist, smiling at my reaction. I take it I passed the test. She purred. Yes, you did, I said, handing her my spare helmet, and we hit the road. The ride to Leadville was great. Colorado summers are warm but cool in the mountains. We stopped to put on warmer clothes once we entered the foothills. She wore her sweatshirt, and I donned my black biker jacket. If we do this again, I'll dress like a biker girl, she said, poking me. Leadville was amazing. We enjoyed live bands, ate delicious tacos, and talked for hours. Everything went smoothly except for the guys ogling her, some discreet, others nudging their partners. It bothered me that she seemed to encourage it with smiles and winks. Despite that, I enjoyed our time together, and when I dropped her off around midnight, we talked at her door, and she gave me a friendly kiss, thanking me for the fun day. I really enjoyed today, Thomas. Greta was great, and I hope you'll call me soon. Thanks for not bringing your hockey bag, she said, explaining that she preferred calling me Thomas unlike everyone else. That day began 2 months of casual dating that led to us becoming exclusive. We texted and talked daily. She earned her teaching certificate, and got a job at a local middle school. After another 4 months, we introduced each other to our families. I met her 2 younger sisters, Meg and Beth, her grandmothers, and her grandfather, while she met my parents, my brother Mikey, Uncle Mike, and my grandparents. After several family gatherings including Thanksgiving and Christmas, I decided to assess our relationship and called a war council with Dad, Mikey, and Grandpa Rexford. We met on my porch in early January, gathered around a table with a fire blazing and a bottle of 15-year-old Glenlivet. Well guys, here's the deal, I began. I've been dating Jess for almost 6 months, 4 of them exclusively. I have feelings for her, and before I take any steps, I want to know what you think. I need the plain truth from each of you, starting with the youngest. Grandpa, I want you to listen and challenge their opinions if needed. Everyone nodded. Okay, Mikey, give it to me. Mikey, 20 months younger than me, always looked up to me as kids, but he was smart. He just finished his master's in applied math, loved figuring things out, always wanted to improve them. 2 years after I returned from logging, Mikey, then a senior at the University of Colorado Boulder, borrowed my bike for a week, spending most of the time taking it apart and putting it back together, improving the fuel system. When I got it back, It ran better than before. Jaxie, if this were math, I'd talk about hydrodynamic factors, but I'll keep it simple. Jess seems great, she has a good teaching job, cares about you, and doesn't take herself too seriously. She doesn't have a long list of ex-boyfriends, which is a good sign. You both show real affection, including respect, physical touch, good communication, and realistic conflict resolution. However, you'll need to be on guard because she's very attractive and other guys will notice. My main concern is the short time you've been together. I'd suggest waiting at least 6 more months before making a long-term commitment. You're both 27, so there's no rush. Dad then spoke. You're smart and mature, with great business sense, and you've handled your personal life wisely, avoiding trouble. I think you'd make a great husband. Jessica seems wonderful, and I agree with Michael's caution. Your mom and I dated from 16 to 23 with some breakups that helped us know what we wanted. A little more time in courtship wouldn't hurt. He then looked at Grandpa Rexford, our elder statesman. Grandpa leaned back in his chair, sipped his whiskey, and gazed at the mountains thoughtfully. After a moment, he looked me in the eye and said, "Beauty is skin deep, but ugliness goes to the bone." Then he took another sip, staring at the hills again. It was mysterious, and I was about to ask for his thoughts when my dad's look told me to be patient. Grandpa continued, "Thomas, Jessica is a sweet girl with stunning looks. I've seen you two together, and I can tell you're in love. She has good qualities, but she also seems to crave attention. She always needs to be the center of everything, which makes her seem immature and narcissistic. She can't stay quiet and needs constant engagement, likely because she wasn't disciplined as a child. Your dad grew up in the 70s, always devoted to rock and roll music. I never understood it until one day in '79 I heard the lyrics to a song he was playing. It was Bob Seger, and the song was Hollywood Nights." Dad interrupted, "Bob Seger, Dad, the song Hollywood Nights." "Yeah, that's right. The song is about a young guy heartbroken by a beauty queen. There's a line, she was born with a face that allowed her to get what she wanted. He saw that face and lost control. I thought, that's a song that makes sense." Grandpa continued, "My point, Thomas, is that Jessica can get anything because of her looks. She knows it, even if she doesn't always use it. This is the potentially ugly part of your relationship. Will she flirt with other men after marriage just because she can? Even if she's faithful, won't men still come on to her? How much time will you spend worrying? Will she respect you enough to stop? I don't know. My advice is more specific. I like the slower approach, but add one element. Ask your uncle for a 6-month vac, go back to Oregon, and work in timber, but take Jess. Be alone, where she knows no one, and try to settle in. She can substitute teach, so her career isn't on hold. Mike won't like losing you, but I'll talk to him. Take long walks and talk about everything, life, work, faith, kids, fears, hopes, and dreams. See if you have enough in common. If she refuses, it's a sign to slow down. If she agrees, even nervously, you have a good foundation. Your dad and Mikey are right, she's the kind of woman who can get anything and anyone, so deal with that now. If she's ugly inside, it's better to know now than in 5 years, with kids, in a disaster." Great advice from 3 smart guys who loved me. We spent the rest of the evening watching the AVS destroy Vancouver, occasionally discussing Jessica. I slept on it and decided to compromise. I didn't want to go back to the Northwest but needed more time alone with her. I decided not to propose for at least 4 months. There's no point in asking for advice if you won't take it, only a fool ignores wise counsel, and I believed I had taken the best of what was offered. 2 weeks later, I took Jess out to our favorite local pub in Golden for burgers and beer. It was a relaxed place, and my hockey buddy Richie, who owned it, seated us in the back for some privacy. "So are we just casual today, Thomas, or do we have an agenda?" she asked, looking stunning and as intuitive as ever. "Somewhere in the middle," I said. "I've never seriously dated anyone before, but I've fallen in love with you. I don't know the best steps forward, but I want to move toward a long-term relationship. If you agree, I have some ideas to discuss as a starting point. Thomas, I'm flattered, you just made a lot of sense without saying too much. I've been thinking about this too. I'm scared because I'm falling in love with you, and I've never been in such a serious relationship. So what's your plan for the next 20 minutes? I shared my thoughts, seeing only each other for at least 4 more months, spending more weekends alone together, and having at least 2 evenings a week to talk about important topics. I suggested inviting older couples we respect for advice and making sure we are compatible in all aspects. She teased me about the last part, and I joked back, earning a playful punch on the arm. Want to come, handsome? She asked, flashing her intense green eyes. I agree with your ideas, and I can teach you a few things, she said with a grin. Let me get the check and we can start the lesson right now, I offered. How about we start with the first lesson right here, she said as we finished our beers. We rode back to my apartment on Greta. As I unlocked the door, Jess whispered, I'm not sure I should be alone with a hockey player, I might be in trouble. In one smooth motion, I opened the door and said, no way, girl. I led her to the bedroom, and later, we fell asleep in each other's arms. My last thought was how amazing it all felt. 4 months of investing in our relationship went almost smoothly. I say, almost, because there was a flaw I should have noticed about 3 months in. We went to a local pub with live bands, had a few drinks, and Jess was teaching me how to dance. We were having a blast when I went to the men's room for a couple of minutes. I returned to find Jess talking to a guy who looked familiar but wasn't a friend. He stood too close, and Jess wasn't keeping her distance. Remembering my friend's warnings, I stayed calm and ordered more beers while watching them. Jess was clearly flirting, giggling, and touching his forearm. She didn't seem to miss me at all. When Jess saw me, there was a brief look of guilt, then she smiled and said, Thomas, you remember Wayne from high school? Wayne smirked slightly and extended his hand. Hey Thomas, good to see you. It's been about 10 years. You look great. I shook his hand and said hello. A couple of things stood out, he called me Thomas, not Jaxie or Rexy, meaning he wasn't a hockey buddy. Jess knew she had crossed the line, now it was a matter of how she would react. She missed her first chance. Wayne, why don't you join us? Are you here with someone? Thanks, I will. No, just here with some buddies, no one I can't ditch for old friends. I can't believe you're still single. There are plenty of ladies who should notice you, Jess said. She kept chatting with Wayne, never involving me or thanking me for the beer. Why don't you spin me around on the dance floor, she suggested to Wayne. Strike 3, she didn't ask if I was okay or even look at me until she led Wayne to the dance floor. Be back in a while, babe. Don't flirt while I'm gone. Wayne looked nervous. He was taller than me but seemed like a clean-cut rich boy who'd never been in a fight. I'd had a few skirmishes in high school in Oregon. Truthfully, I got my backside kicked the first week in the logging industry for being rude to a redneck. He punched me up, but later we shook hands and he took me under his wing. Since then, I've learned to keep my temper in check. Wayne didn't attend our school, but he knew I did by the look in his eyes. Do you mind if I dance with Jess? He asked. Of course he doesn't, Jessica answered for me, leaving no room for objection. There's no fourth strike in baseball. Wayne avoided a punch by at least trying to ask, honoring the unspoken male code. Jessica, however, was in for a rude awakening. When they returned, I was gone. I had a lovely moonlit ride home on Greta to cool down. Jess and I didn't live together, call me old school, but I believe it's disrespectful for a man to ask a woman to live with him without a ring. It makes it too easy for a guy to take advantage and walk away. The ride home took 20 minutes, and another 20 passed before Jess's calls started coming in. Thomas, where are you? I can't find you at home. Why did you leave without picking me up? You looked like you were having too much fun, with Wayne. Come back and get me now, you idiot. You're embarrassing me. Good night, Jess. I'm sure you'll make it home. She called again before I could turn off my phone, but I ignored it. I wanted a good night's sleep before the storm that would erupt in the morning. At 7:30 a.m. While drinking my second cup of coffee, Jess burst in with her green eyes blazing. We didn't live together, but she had a key. You son of a cow, Thomas. How dare you leave me like that? Are you such a little boy that you ran away because you were hurt? Explain yourself right now if you want me to stay. Her nostrils flared and her face was red with anger. If I hadn't been a lumberjack, I might have been scared. Would you like to sit down and have a cup of coffee, Jessica? No, screw it, I don't want to sit and drink coffee with a juvenile like you. I kept my tone calm, which might have made her angrier, but I wasn't about to argue with an irritated Irish girl. Okay, suit yourself. Let me be blunt, Jess, I love you deeply and want us to be together, but I won't tolerate disrespect. What you did last night was unacceptable. We're not just dating, we agreed to intentionally deepen our relationship. Wayne was in your personal space, and you allowed it. You didn't ask if he was welcome at our table, you invited him without checking with me. You flirted with him, told him other women should notice him, and asked him to dance without acknowledging me once. Even Wayne had the decency to check if it was all right, but you cut him off before I could answer. How is that respectful? How does it show your love for me? You enjoy the attention you get from men, and that's fine, but treating me like I don't matter, making all the decisions alone, is not. I was wrong to leave without explaining, but I won't compete for you, we're past that. I'm yours, and you should expect love, respect, and honor from me just as I expect the same from you. If you don't feel the same way, let me know. It will hurt, but I'll respect your choice and move on. But if you do love me and want to continue, you need to show me respect and care. Imagine it reversed. If a woman flirted with me in front of you and I danced with her without asking, how would that make you feel? It was silent for a moment as Jess stared at me. I thought she might walk away, but then tears filled her eyes, her lip quivered, and suddenly she threw herself into my arms, sobbing. I held her as she caught her breath. I'm so sorry, Thomas. I didn't think. It was horrible of me. I can't believe I treated you so badly. I love you and want to be with you. Please forgive me. She began crying again. I held her a moment longer, then gently pushed her back to look into her eyes. She was sincere. Jess, I forgive you. I love you. But we have to be clear with each other and prioritize respect. I know men will always notice you, but we can't disrespect each other. I know, Thomas. That's exactly it. She wiped her face with her sleeve. I must look terrible. Let me wash up, then let's have that coffee and talk about growing in our love. 5 months later, we were married on a beautiful Saturday morning near Breen Ridge. It was a gorgeous late May day, with sunny skies and mild temperatures. Despite my hockey buddies' loud congratulations, the event was calm and joyful. Surrounded by family and friends, we vowed to forsake all others and live together as husband and wife. We celebrated the day until 6 p.m., when we left for our honeymoon. Greta took us to the airport for our flight to Cabo. After 9 incredible days, we returned to Denver at the start of summer. Over the following months, Jess and I had many long talks and walks, addressing important life issues. We even saw a therapist to explore our family backgrounds, expectations, and communication habits. I felt I had followed the advice of the 3 men who loved me most and had embarked on a lifelong journey with the woman I truly loved, who, I believed, truly loved me in return. So how is it that just 4.5 years after marrying Jess, I'm single again, driving down the highway alone? I thought I had done everything right, taken every piece of good advice. Jess and I covered serious emotional, psychological, and relational ground before and after marriage. I believed we were honest and committed to love, care, and respect. But that doesn't matter if the other person doesn't carry the same meaning for those words in their heart. Jess had different definitions for those promises, ones she never shared with me. There were patterns in her life that she couldn't or wouldn't change, and those patterns slowly eroded us. Grandpa Rexford was right, Jessica was beautiful on the outside, but her inner ugliness ran deep. A year earlier, Jess had accepted a position teaching Algebra 2 and trigonometry to 10th graders at the local high school. Two older teachers were nearing retirement, and Jess was on track to teach AP Math soon, according to her department chair, Dr. Charles Welburn, also known as Chuck the Devil. For the first 2 months of the school year, Jess was thrilled. Every night she came home full of stories about her classes and how much she loved teaching math. She often spoke highly of Dr. Welburn, her mentor. I didn't think much of it, he seemed like a decent guy who wanted his department to succeed. I should have been more cautious. Dr. Welburn was 15 years older than Jess, married, and had 3 teenage children. I met him in early October, expecting someone impressive based on the way Jess described him. Instead, he was average, about 160 centimeters tall, fit for a man in his early 40s, with no gray hairs. He wasn't boring, but nothing about him stood out. I expected a teaching legend but met someone far more ordinary. For those unfamiliar with hockey, Barry Melrose was picked 36th in the 1978 draft, played about 300 professional games, and had a mediocre career. To me, Dr. Welborn was like Melrose, pleasant but unimpressive. I never fully understood Jess' fascination with him. I assumed she appreciated his support and guidance, and who was I to judge? I listened politely as she talked about how inspiring he was, but I began to notice that 90% of our conversations were about her work, and about 75% of those were centered around Welborn. When I spoke about my own life, my work, hockey, or family, Jess would listen for a few minutes before steering the conversation back to her world. As a first-time husband, I assumed this was normal. I didn't mind hearing about her job or her boss, but I also wanted her to take an interest in my life. Sadly, she rarely did, and I never brought it up, until it was too late. The week after Thanksgiving, I was on the phone with my mom, discussing Christmas plans, when she switched gears and asked, "Thomas, are you and Jess okay?" "Mom, really? Are you sure?" she insisted. It wasn't really a question. "Yes, I think so." "Why do you ask?" "Well," Mom paused, "you can talk to me if something's bothering you, please tell me. It's just that Jess always seems to be talking about herself and her work. I've never heard her brag about you or even ask about your work. That strikes me as odd. Enthusiasm in a relationship should be mutual, you're always supporting her and paying attention, but she doesn't seem to reciprocate." We talked more and I thanked her for her concern. I didn't agree or disagree with her observations, but I felt she had picked up on something that mirrored my own growing anxiety. I told her I would seriously consider her words. I didn't bring it up to Jess right away but started keeping a simple record of our conversations. Working with numbers made it easy for me to track. That's how I realized most of what we discussed revolved around Jess and her world. I started feeling uneasy, remembering that Seeger lyric, "She was born with a face that let her get her way." Jess was incredible, but in this area, she was immature and self-focused, always used to getting what she wanted. I decided to plan a weekend getaway for us, a chance to reconnect and talk, like we used to during our first 3 years of marriage. I booked a cabin near Aspen, checked our schedules, and confirmed there were no school conflicts. I'd miss a hockey game and take some, "what the hell, Jaxie," comments from the team, but I'd live. I was excited to tell Jess. That evening after dinner, I shared my plan, expecting her to be thrilled. She wasn't. She paused longer than expected and said, "Thomas, you should consult with me first. Charles has a mandatory faculty meeting next Saturday to discuss new curriculum ideas." Her face showed annoyance, not disappointment. "Jess, I did check with you. Our shared calendar didn't show this. When was it scheduled?" The fact that Dr. Welborn was now Charles didn't escape me. "About a week ago, I guess," Jess replied, sounding less confident. "I thought I put it on the list, but maybe I forgot." This was a first. She had created the shared calendar system, and now she'd skipped using it. I was furious. Damn it, Jess, you work enough as it is, and now Wellborn thinks he owns your weekends too. That's not fair. Thomas, Charles wants what's best for our students and the math department. It's just one Saturday. We can find another weekend. That's not the point, Jess, I replied, frustrated. We've been using this calendar because it was your idea. Remember when I forgot to put a dinner with clients on there? You made me reschedule. What's fair for me should be fair for you. Damn it, Thomas, you're making a big deal out of nothing. We can just reschedule. I'm sorry, Jess. You're right, I said sarcastically. Forgive me for treating you the way you treat me. Forgive me for wanting to plan a nice weekend with my wife. Forgive me for interfering with Charlie's precious schedule. She started to respond angrily, but I walked out. I jumped on Greta and rode around to cool off, which turned into a 3-hour trip after a few beers at the local pub. When I got home, the atmosphere between us was icy. We only saw each other in passing and didn't speak. I worked late in my home office, then crashed on the couch. I've always been an early riser, a habit from my logging days when work started before dawn. I left the house at 5:30, and Jess usually got up at 6:15, so we didn't cross paths. I canceled the cabin reservation, losing a $100 deposit. It wasn't much, but it still made me sad. Later, I saw her faculty meeting on the calendar, along with a math conference in January and 2 girls' nights out. I sent Jess a snarky text, going to the rink after work. Game at 7 o'clock, beers afterward. I'll be home around 11 o'clock. Check the calendar if unclear, it's been there for 2 months. No response. The next week we barely spoke, each of us waiting for the other to apologize. I was upset she hadn't updated the calendar and seemed indifferent. She probably thought I'd cave first, but we were both disappointed. The following Saturday, Jess surprised me with a kiss at breakfast. Thomas, I hope we can talk and make up today. I understand your disappointment, but I'm sure we can work things out, she said with a wink, then left without an apology or acknowledgement of her mistake. Seeger's lyrics echoed in my mind again, a face that lets her get her way. I grumbled for half an hour, then decided not to waste the day. The porch door had been creaking for weeks, so I took it off the hinges to oil it, only to realize we were out of oil. I jumped in my Jeep and headed to the hardware store. Mick's store had been around since just after World War II, staying in the family for 90 years. Mick 4 now runs it with his sons, Mick V and Eddie. I played hockey with Eddie, and Mick V only worked weekends because he taught math at Jess's school. Imagine my surprise when I walked in and saw Mick V helping a customer with a snowblower. He waved as I entered, and my surprised look must have caught his attention because he found me in section 9 a few minutes later. Hey, Jaxie, heard you had a goal and 2 assists on Thursday. Eddie said you played well, for an old man. Hey V, yeah, it was a good night, sorry for the weird look, but I thought Wellborn had a middle school math meeting today, did you quit your job? Now he looked embarrassed and said, I'm still teaching, but Wellborn didn't schedule a meeting for today, he's arrogant, but not that stupid. Did Jess tell you there was a meeting? I asked, trying to keep my composure. I must have misunderstood Jess, I said as I left, then another thought hit me. Hey V, does the math department attend conferences? Yes, he replied, the next seminar is in Estes Park at the end of March, I'll be there, then hit the slopes. Trying to stay calm, I replied, sounds like you've planned to attend half the meetings, to which he laughed, yeah, I must be getting old, see you later, Jaxie, and he walked away. Distrust filled me as I paid for the oil and jumped into the Jeep, why was Jess lying? I drove past the school twice, checking all 4 parking lots, no cars, no lights, my mind raced. I needed facts about where she was and what she was doing, I couldn't just sit at home. I went to a coffee shop, grabbed a cup, and sat in the back with a notepad. An hour later, I had a plan. My insurance agent, Pat Cook, known as Cookie on the hockey team, was surprised to get a call from me on a Saturday morning. "Jaxie, did you break your leg trying to improve your skating?" "Not yet, Cookie. I need a few minutes. Can I meet you at your office?" He knew from my tone it was serious. 15 minutes later, we were in his conference room. "When you suspect insurance fraud, do you hire a private investigator?" I asked. "Sure, but why? This is confidential, right?" I asked. He looked offended. "Sorry, my head's spinning. I think Jess might be having an affair, and I need to find out. Can you help?" "I hope you're wrong. I don't have a boyfriend, but I know a top-notch investigator. She's almost invisible, tough as nails, and always gets results. I can set you up with her. She's not cheap, but she's the best." "Thank you, Cookie." Her name was Ella Compton. Since PIs work odd hours, she agreed to meet later that afternoon. I went home, finished the porch door, showered, ate, and met her at 1 o'clock. I sent Jess a note saying I had errands and would be home by 3. Ella was short, about 5 feet tall, but clearly tough. She smiled politely but spoke with a direct, no-nonsense tone. I explained my situation. "If you want a detailed report, it'll take several weeks, possibly into the new year. Since you think she's lying about the conference, it'll cost you. I need $1,500 up front, and we invoice the rest later." I sent the deposit while she asked a few more questions. We shook hands and left. I felt low but knew I had to keep up appearances. Secrecy was my only path to the truth. Jess was home, humming in the kitchen when I walked in. I kissed her on the cheek and told her I needed a shower. I had tickets to the AVS PRS game that night, and Jess rarely went with me. I was taking Mikey, and she was pleased. Before I left, I lied for the first time. "Jess, I'm sorry I overreacted this weekend. I wanted us to go away, but I shouldn't have spoken to you like that. Please forgive me." "Of course, Thomas. I understand your frustration. We'll go soon, just the two of us." Cowed to the end, I thought. The next 6 weeks were difficult. I put on a happy face at work, at home, and with family. Christmas was brutal. Jess and I exchanged gifts, visited my in-laws for lunch, and her family for dinner. New Year's Eve was even worse. We went out for dinner and dancing, then spent the night in a hotel room. The emotional connection felt distant. On Sunday, we had dinner at Mom and Dad's with Grandma and Grandpa Rexford. As we hugged and kissed goodbye, Grandpa quietly pulled me aside. "I'm sorry, Thomas. I really am," he whispered. "Sorry for what, Grandpa?" I asked, confused. "I'm sorry I was right." "How's that?" He smiled sadly. "I was right about the ugliness. Just know we're all with you, no matter what happens." I wanted to cry, and he saw it in my eyes. "You'll get through this, Thomas. There'll be time for tears later. For now, do what you have to do. We Rexfords stick together and take care of each other." His strength reassured me that I could handle it. 3 weeks later, I sat in Ella's office. She had called the day before to say the report was ready. I asked to meet at her work instead of mine. "I'm sorry to tell you, Thomas, but your wife is lying to you," she began. "If you need a moment, take it." "No, go on, please," I said. "Chuck has been spending time with your wife, usually at the Hampton Inn in Englewood. They choose that location because you don't have offices nearby. They act professional at work and are very discreet. They drive separately to a rest stop or truck stop far enough away, but close enough to return home quickly if needed. There was no conference in Colorado Springs. They spent that weekend in Gunnison at a remote cabin. They meet about every 8 or 9 days and have met at least 6 times since you hired me. I have audio and video from their last 2 meetings at the Hampton, along with pictures and text message records. The evidence is irrefutable." She handed me a thick folder. "It's all here, but I advise against looking at the pictures or listening to the recordings right away. For some reason, I stayed calm throughout our conversation. I asked a few clarifying questions, which she answered thoroughly. When we were done, I asked her to email the final invoice to my personal work address. I gathered the folder and stood to leave. Mr. Rexford, if I may, this is the best and worst part of my job. I'm picky about my clients and avoid liars and scammers. I never help anyone cheat. I know you're a good man who doesn't deserve this. It's hard to give you this news, but now you know the truth. You're no longer in the dark, and you can take back control of your life. Thank you, I mumbled. One last thing, she said. I dug more into Chuck. This isn't his first affair. If you want help bringing him down, I'll help at no extra charge. Too bad it's not the 1880s, we could have strung him up before sunset. As I left, I noticed it had started to snow, a gray gloom settling over my world. I sat in my Jeep, deciding what to do next. 5 minutes later, I called Jess. She answered on the third ring. Hey babe, I had to go to Boulder this afternoon for a client. It's snowing like crazy, and I still have work to finish, so I won't be home until tomorrow. Oh, I'm sorry, babe, I was going to surprise you and go to your hockey game tonight. Be careful driving home tomorrow. I love you. Thanks, bye, was all I could say. I considered going to my parents' house but drove to the Hampton Inn in Englewood instead. I parked where I could watch the entrance, hidden by some bushes, and decided to wait for an hour. While I waited, I called Cookie and told him the bad news. Jaxie, I'm sorry as hell. Thanks, Cookie. Cover for me tonight with the guys. Make sure they know the next keg is on me. I'll call you tomorrow. Score a couple of goals for me. You got it, brother. I didn't have to wonder whether my wife would show up with her colleague. About 35 minutes later, Chuck arrived and went inside. 5 minutes after that, Jess parked at the far end and met him at the side door, where he gave her a quick kiss. I vomited into the bushes. After that, I drove to my parents' house. On the way, I called my dad and told him everything. He was silent, which meant he was furious. I asked him to tell my mom because I didn't have the strength to repeat the story. I said I'd be there in about 20 minutes and hung up, crying the whole way. When I pulled up, I saw Mikey, Uncle Mike, and Grandpa's cars. My mom opened the door before I reached the steps. I collapsed into her arms, sobbing. When I came to, the 6 of us were sitting in the living room. Mom wanted to feed me and Dad poured a stiff drink, but I refused both, not trusting my stomach. I spent the next 30 minutes telling them the story. I hadn't read the full dossier yet, but I knew enough from my conversation with Ella. Everyone sat in silence, letting me speak. I cried the entire time, and my mom stroked my back like she did when I was a child. By the end, everyone had tears in their eyes. Grandpa spoke first. We are all deeply saddened by your pain. We'd all like a few minutes alone with Jess and her boss, he said, half smiling, but we must be wise. Speaking out now would be the wrong approach. Let's talk a bit more and then adjourn for the evening. Take a strong sleeping pill and we'll pick this up in the morning. Tonight's discussion won't help. As I told you before, we are all with you, no matter what. Everyone looked at Grandpa with wide eyes, realizing he had known what was going on, even if they hadn't. No one was upset he hadn't told them sooner. They trusted him as the cornerstone of our family. You're right, Dad, my father finally said, then added, what should we do about Thomas's absence tomorrow? Will Jess expect him to call or be home by early afternoon? Uncle Mike jumped up. I can handle it. Thomas told Jess he's busy in Boulder. This snowstorm gives him a perfect excuse. I'll call Jess in the morning and explain that the situation is serious and only Thomas can handle it. He'll have to talk to her tomorrow, but I can assure her it'll take another day or two. Since she's at school, she won't be tempted to drive to Boulder. We agreed to the plan, with some additions from Mom and Dad. My brother hugged me tightly, his tears flowing. Uncle Mike hugged me too, and Grandpa took my face in his hands. "You'll get through this, Thomas, you have my word." After everyone left, I went to the guest room, took a couple of sleeping pills, and was out like a light. The next morning, I was surprisingly calm and determined, though still heartbroken. Jess had made her choices, breaking her vows and neglecting me. It was time for me to make mine. My family's love would help me endure, and my long-term plan was forming. By 8:30 a.m., we reconvened around the kitchen table. By noon, we had the basics of the plan ready. My next stop was a lawyer Uncle Mike recommended, someone experienced with cases like mine. At 1:30 sharp, I walked into the law office of Beach. I was seated with Meredith Beach Cochran, a pleasant-looking woman in her late 40s with steely blue eyes and a firm handshake. She practiced family law exclusively and never represented a cheating spouse. She was well-versed in Colorado divorce law. "What do you want when the dust settles, Mr. Rexford?" "I'm not sure yet. I don't want her to get more than she brought into the marriage, but I know that's unrealistic. Our prenup protects my family business in case of infidelity. I want my name clear, and I want everyone to know her betrayal is the reason I'm suing. I want his name public, and I hope he gets fired. Mostly, I want to move on with my life. Most of what you say makes sense. I'm glad you have realistic expectations. As your lawyer, I have to ask, are you planning to harm them?" "No, ma'am. But I can't guarantee what some of my hockey buddies might do." "Good," she replied with a wry smirk. I stared at her, surprised. "Two of my brothers played at the University of Denver in the early 2000s, Jaxie." "I know the lingo," she winked. "Well, Mrs. Beach Cochran, it looks like I found the right lawyer." "Yes, Mr. Rexford, call me Beach if you like." "Great, I'm Jaxie." Before I left, we agreed on 3 things. I would leave the PI file with her for review, she would file for divorce within 24 hours, and Jess would be served after school on Friday in the parking lot. The shock might prompt a reaction that would benefit us. I would meet Jess at home Friday night to confront her and demand that she leave, since the house was in my name. We would keep the PI on Jess to monitor her behavior before and after she was served. The bill was already around $5,000, which was frustrating. She emphasized staying calm, leaning on my family for support, and continuing to live my life as usual. We exchanged cell numbers for follow-up. Before leaving, I asked, "Why isn't the practice called Beach, Cochran Beach?" She smiled. "I'm patient, Jaxie. Daddy will retire in 3 years. Then I'll be senior partner. It'll be Beach, Cochran Beach." I texted Jess as I left her office, finished with this mess. "On my way. I'll be home around 6. She replied, "Can't wait to see you," adding a heart emoji. I deleted the message. I went to my parents' house to update them. Mikey was there with Mom and Dad. I called Grandpa to bring him up to speed. "You're already talking better, Thomas. I'm proud of how you're holding up." At 5:30, I headed home. Jess was upstairs but came down when she heard the door. We exchanged hugs and a kiss. I showered, changed, and we made a simple dinner of burgers and salad. I realized I hadn't eaten in over 24 hours and was suddenly hungry. As dinner ended, Jess began to flirt. She wore a baggy shirt with no bra and leggings, and as she placed her leg in my lap, I instinctively reacted, but the idea of intimacy with Jess now left me emotionally cold. She was still my wife, but everything had changed. "You may have been Jaxie last night," she said playfully, "but I hope Jaxie takes his wife upstairs tonight." "Sorry, babe, my head is still pounding from the last 2 days, and that snowy drive didn't help," I replied. She looked surprised. There had only been a handful of times in our relationship when I had turned down her advances. "I understand." "I'm sorry," she said, clearly disappointed. I wanted to lash out, to tell her to have fun with Chuck at the Hampton Inn, but I didn't. Instead, I offered gently, how about we take a bath and I give you a back rub? Smiling, I carefully moved her leg from my lap. She took a long bath, and I gave her a back massage, all while battling a storm of conflicting emotions. After about 20 minutes, she fell asleep. I covered her and moved to the far side of the bed, as far as I could manage. The next night, I had a hockey game. She didn't suggest I skip it, perhaps because I had already missed Mondays. Thursday night was more difficult, but dinner with her parents made it bearable. On the drive home, I could tell she was expecting something more, so I discreetly texted Uncle Mike. 2 minutes after we arrived, Uncle Mike called. "Thomas, sorry to bother you. Are you with Jess?" "Yes, Uncle Mike, we just had dinner at the Remingtons." "Hi Jess," he added. "Hi Uncle Mike," she replied. "We're a little busy. Can Thomas call you back in the morning?" She winked at me. "I'm sorry, but this can't wait," he continued. "Thomas, Jackson's investment file wasn't finished. Tina went home sick, and we need it for tomorrow's 7:30 a.m. meeting." "Damn, Uncle Mike," I said, pretending to be frustrated. "Okay, I'll drop Jess off and meet you at the office in 30 minutes. "Thanks, Thomas." "Sorry, Jess." "Uncle Mike, you owe us a steak dinner at Capitol Grill." "Deal." "Damn it, Thomas, this is getting very unpleasant," Jess muttered. "What does a girl have to do to get her husband in bed?" I restrained myself from saying what I really thought. "I know, babe, but I'm sure you'll catch a break one of these days." She didn't notice I said, "you," instead of "we." She hummed and sulked the last 10 minutes of the drive. When she got out, I rolled the window down and said, "I won't be in for another 3 hours, why don't you wait for me?" She didn't look back, just waved and walked into the house. Yeah, that's right. Keep walking, I thought. Friday was the most unproductive day of my professional career. I arrived early, leaving Jess a note saying I'd be home before dawn to ensure an uninterrupted evening. After catching up on paperwork and making a few client calls, I checked the time, expecting it to be noon. It was only 9:30 a.m. I told my assistant Donna I was heading to the gym, where I worked out furiously. After meeting Dad and Uncle Mike for lunch, I returned to the office for another 2 wasted hours before heading home, arriving an hour before Jess. Just as I approached the front door, Jess was finishing her last class. Chuck had slipped into her classroom with his usual self-satisfied grin. "Sweetie, how about a detour on the way home this afternoon?" Chuck was charming and reasonably good-looking, but Jess, who was used to getting her way with her looks, was growing bored with him. He was fine in the moment but lacked long-term potential. He wasn't going to be wealthy, he was 15 years older, married, and had 3 kids. Chuck was a dead end, and she knew it. She decided she'd end it politely, especially since he was still her boss. "I'm sorry, Charles, but Thomas and I haven't spent much time together this week. How about late Sunday night? Thomas has a hockey game at 5, so I could meet you between 4 and 6. I'll let you know. At the end, I'll say we had fun, but it's over," she thought to herself. Chuck didn't like the answer but nodded. Maybe he could arrange for his mother-in-law to watch the kids. His wife wasn't as stunning as Jess, but she was attractive enough. "Okay. I'll pick you up at the bus stop at 4 sharp, he said. Jess heard him whistle as he left. She was relieved, she was going to end things with Chuck Wellborn. He had treated her like royalty but had begun to act entitled. She always had the upper hand with men, including Thomas. She wouldn't let any man control her. After grading math tests for 30 more minutes, Jess reflected that she did love her husband. He was strong when needed, generous, and a great provider. He'd make a wonderful father, just like his dad and grandfather. Deep down, she knew she couldn't promise never to stray again, but she wanted to refocus on loving him. The connections between love, loyalty, and honesty in her brain didn't quite align. She didn't feel the guilt or shame she probably should have. Jess didn't realize how deeply selfish and narcissistic she had become, but that was about to change. "Excuse me, are you Mrs. Jessica Rexford?" a woman asked as she approached Jess in the school parking lot, holding a manila envelope. Beach always used female process servers for delivering documents to wives. They drew less attention. "Yes, that's me. Sorry, I don't recognize you. Who are you? I have an important document for you. May I see some ID?" "Sure," Jess replied, feeling a little uneasy. She showed her faculty lanyard. "Thank you, Mrs. Jessica Rexford. You've been served." The woman handed Jess the envelope and walked away. Jess stood frozen, holding the papers. "Wait, what? I don't understand. What is this?" she called out, receiving no reply. Slowly, the reality began to sink in. "No, this can't be happening," she whispered, ripping open the envelope. The top page read, "Statement of Dissolution of Marriage." No, 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 it can't be. She thought, Thomas would never do this. He adores me. He loves me. He couldn't possibly know about Charles. We were careful. If he knew, he would have confronted me. Oh God, I have to go home and fix this. She fumbled with her keys, dropped the papers, and began to cry. After gathering everything, she climbed into the car, sobbing and shaking. She tried to calm herself, but confusion overwhelmed her. Having never faced true hardship, it took several minutes before she could drive. On the way home, she alternated between sobbing, denial, anger, and fear. She was determined to say what she needed to say when she got home. No one, not even Thomas Rexford, had ever treated her like this. How dare he humiliate her at her workplace? Thankfully, most staff had already gone, but a few teachers were still on campus, and someone likely saw the interaction. Gossip would spread by Monday. She never once considered that her own actions caused this, that her betrayal was the source of the disaster. By the time she pulled into the driveway, she had regained some composure and planned to act calm. She believed she could explain away the affair by claiming Charles had pressured her, using his authority over her career. She still feared telling Thomas the truth, concerned about how he'd react, especially toward Charles. As she stepped inside, confident in her plan, I was already sitting at the kitchen table with another folder on it, but Jess ignored it and moved forward with her act. "Thomas, my love, this must be a terrible mistake. Why would you divorce me? We love each other, you're my soulmate. What made you do this?" I remained calm. "Jess, please sit down." She did. "Jess, I've learned some deeply disturbing things about your behavior. I'm giving you one opportunity to be completely honest. I promise to listen without interruption. If you explain everything truthfully, I will reconsider." Jess started to speak, but I raised my hand. "Before you begin, let me be clear, I'm recording this conversation on my phone to avoid any misunderstandings later. You have one chance to be completely honest. If you lie or twist the truth, it's over and the divorce proceeds immediately. It's up to you to share your side." Ignoring the folder on the table, Jess began. "I don't mind writing it down, Thomas, but I'll tell you the truth. Charles Wellborn used his authority to manipulate me. I resisted for a long time, but he pressured me. He made it clear that my best option for advancement was through him. I hated it, but I was overwhelmed and didn't know what to do." Jess began to cry. "I didn't tell you because I thought I could manage it myself, and I was afraid you'd confront him and end up in jail. Eventually, I gave in, just once, and regretted every moment. Today, after school, he came into my classroom and tried again, but I refused. Thomas, now that you know, maybe you can help me stop him. I've heard rumors he's done this to other teachers too, but I can't prove it." She lowered her head to the table and sobbed. "Clap, clap, clap," I said, applauding sarcastically. I was heartbroken at her obvious lies, but part of me had to admit, she might have a future in acting. Jess, that was an incredible performance, but I'm not buying it. Thomas, how can you say such awful things? I gave you my soul. Jess, you've always had a way with men, including me. You're beautiful on the outside, and many of us foolishly believed there was beauty within too. Let me tell you what I know. I opened the folder and laid out the evidence. You've been seeing Chuck for at least 2 months. You meet at the Hampton Inn in Englewood. I slid the photos toward her. Jess turned pale. At least 6 rendezvous over the last 2 months. There was no Saturday morning math meeting in December, no teachers' conference in Colorado Springs. I have audio of your conversations, including one where you say how much you enjoy being with Charles. So, no, this wasn't coercion. You enjoyed yourself. There's video of you laughing with him, and photos from your weekend getaway in Gunnison. Jess, this isn't about one mistake, this is deliberate deceit. You're not a victim. You're a partner in betrayal. Jess was speechless. For the first time in her life, she realized she couldn't charm her way out. You broke my heart, Jess. I've cried more tears in the last few months than in the rest of my life. My job performance has suffered. My relationship with my family has suffered. My self-worth is shattered. And I kept asking myself, why? Why destroy our love for a fling with a man like that? I've seen Chuck. He's not taller, better looking, or more successful than me. And I've listened to your conversations, he didn't give you love, just moments. My anger surged. But here's what I've realized, you're not worth the tears anymore. You've hurt me deeply, but I'll recover. You're selfish, and inside, you're not the woman I thought you were. I'll move forward knowing I gave you my best. I'm not perfect, but I never deserved this. I don't hate you, Jess, I feel nothing. And that's what indifference is. From now on, you're nothing to me. Thomas, no, Jess. Enough. I packed a bag for you. You can grab the rest of your things from upstairs. You're leaving today. My lawyer's contact info is in that packet. If you want to get more of your stuff later, go through her. I won't be here. Take what you brought into this marriage. Anything you leave behind will be donated or destroyed. Thomas, please forgive me. I was scared to tell you the truth. I made a mistake. But we can fix this, I want to be with you. Scared? When have I ever made you afraid? I've never yelled at you, never touched you in anger. If you were scared, it was because you knew you were wrong and couldn't have it both ways. I won't leave like some defeated woman. You can't kick me out. This is my home too. Jess, I replied calmly, I bought this house before we married. It's in my name. We don't have children, so you can't claim it for their sake. Our prenup is clear, if you're unfaithful, you walk away with what you came in with. You should have read it more carefully. I don't want anything from you, Thomas. I just want us. Charles means nothing to me. I was going to end it on Sunday. She winced the moment she said it. Sunday. During my hockey game? Even if I believed you, and I don't, it's too late. I swear I don't care about him. It was stupid, it meant nothing. Yes, Jess. It was stupid, selfish, and cruel. But let's be clear, I'm not walking away from our marriage. I'm ending it because you already destroyed it. She sobbed, finally understanding the weight of her actions. Where will I go? What will I do? That's up to you. My family knows everything and has supported me through this. I haven't told your family, but if you lie to them, I will. I won't attack Chuck, but your principal will know the truth. I won't sue the school, but I won't protect him either. If his wife asks, I'll tell her everything. He has 3 kids, if they suffer, that's on you. I'm done shielding you. The locks are changed. I haven't touched your accounts. The divorce terms are fair. Contact your lawyer, sign the papers, and leave. Jess wiped her eyes, went upstairs, gathered a few things, and quietly exited through the kitchen. I sat in silence, exhausted, but relieved. I'm sorry, Thomas, she said. Yes, Jess, you are. 8 months later, I'm divorced and heading to Santa Fe. Why leave town? I need space. I love my family, and they love me, but like when I left for Oregon 15 years ago, I need time alone. I'll spend a year or two building the New Mexico office, then hire someone to run it and return to Denver. My hockey team will miss me, but I need a fresh start. The only companion I want for now is Greta. As for Jess, I heard the other hockey wives took her on a girls' weekend once they found out everything. Apparently, she didn't enjoy it. Tricia, her ex-friend, made sure of that. Chuck. Dr. Fielding, the principal, made his life hell, and his contract wasn't renewed. He left the state, his wife divorced him, and his kids won't speak to him. Before leaving, he fell down his apartment stairs and broke 3 ribs, several teeth, and his arm. My hockey buddies were at O'Connell's when it happened. According to 20 witnesses, well, maybe Bob Seeger was wrong after all.